Hey guys, this is Nick here with another Nick's Collectables. What we're looking at today is one of the ones that I had mentioned earlier that I was going to be picking up, and that is War Machine. This is one of the newer ones in the Amazing Yamaguchi Revoltech line. He is technically one of the Avengers, though he does not show, well, he shows up in Iron Man, but he doesn't show up in much of them. But he's been kind of in and out of the series for quite some time. Just looking at the figures box kind of gives me like that whole vibe of being 5 years old or 8 years old and sitting down with a comic and sitting down with, like, Iron Man or anything like that and seeing War Machine come into play. I think they do an absolutely stellar job on the boxes on these figures. I've been super impressed with them from the get-go, and this one is no exception. So if you go ahead and rotate it around here, you can actually kind of see it's got him on the side. He's got an enormous amount of rockets. He's got multiple machine guns. It's actually kind of got roads here near the bottom that you can kind of see. If you rotate him around a little bit more, you can see it's got him in various different poses on it where it looks like it's pretty much just come straight out of the comic book. And I couldn't be happier with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take a look at this guy as we kind of rotate him around so you can kind of see a little bit more here on it. We're going to open him up. We're going to take a look at him, and we're going to have some fun with him. So hang tight, guys. Okay guys, so before we get into the figure, I thought I'd show you one thing that comes with this that I think is particularly cool. This is the insert just on the inside of the box. Now Wolverine has one of these too, and I don't really make too much of a big deal with them, but these are kind of cool little backdrops that I think are just neat little additions to have. And this one in particular is really neat. So if you had the space and you want to display the figure with this, I think it's actually a really cool idea. You can get some like clips for it so it can just kind of stand up and it won't fall over as easy. And as you can see, if I move him into frame, he actually looks really good in front of it. I mean, the figure himself just looks amazing. I mean, if you look at him, I mean, he's got machine guns attached here. He's got another one over here. He's got his hands right here, and I've got one of the plates off. You'll probably notice, like on the right hand side here, this hand is exposed. It's because I was tinkering around with him. These little caps here, those come off. And the reason those come off is so that you can do stuff like, attach rockets and machine guns and things like that, like these little Gatling guns and stuff like that he has. All kind of pretty much attach almost anywhere on the figure. So he's got multiple points where he can attach things on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick him up and we're going to kind of look at the details on him here real quick, just to get you guys for a good look at a good close-up of how his paint job looks, what his articulation is, and things like that. So the first thing that you're going to notice, even before I move him, is he actually has really good detailing. Like here on the plates, you've got little hashtag marks in there for where it's in. You can see where it's sort of latched in to where the knee joint is and everything like that. You can see that they've actually painted this on the chest where the arc reactor thing would be and around the eyes. Let me move my hand so it'll refocus. But you can see right here and right here they've done a bit of paint. I kind of like how they did the paint job. I think it could have been a little nicer, but it's far better than what I actually expected when I first looked at it in the box. When I first looked at it in the box, I was like, that's going to be a sticker or something, isn't it? But no, it's actually a paint job, which I think is pretty cool. You can also see over here, if you look at it, you can see like the little joints and stuff like that there. You can see the detailing here. He's got pretty good articulation. Like if you grab him here, you can move his arm out to like right there. It'll actually go up a little bit more like that. You can see the ball joint here is kind of exposed. You can kind of move this in to hide that. That's what this is kind of really for. But the whole arm will move 360 degrees on that ball joint on it, right? His hand will come out and this will move around. That moves completely around. You can even see he's got the little blasters in his fist that he just doesn't use because he prefers machine guns for whatever reason. The hip motion on him is a little hinky. I'm not the biggest fan of it. The figure looks really clean in the lines, but the hip motion is a little stiff. So he's not quite as posable as I would like on his hip motion. And part of that comes into play with these little pieces down here. And you have to be really careful with those when you're messing with this figure. because in moving him around, I've actually gotten these caught on this part here. So if you're really wanting to move around, you're going to have to lift that up and put it in, but you need to be careful when you're moving back in that you move this part in almost first, right? It needs to kind of go down like that in order to make sure that the figure's line's going. Otherwise, it'll get caught. I've already had it get caught once when I was messing with it and just get bent out of shape and sit here. It's pretty easy to fix. It's not like a game breaker on the figure, but it is something to keep in mind when you're messing with him. Another thing to keep in mind, at least on mine, is the head does move around pretty good. He's got decent head motion back and forth and up like that. But if you lift up, you can see the gap here. So it's actually possible just to kind of pull him a little out of joint. So I would be a little careful around his head, just as a precaution, right, when you're messing with him. Now, if we lift him up a little bit and we kind of look at his legs here, I'll turn him to the side first. You can see he's got more detailing here. He's got pegs here, so you can put like more rockets or miniguns or missiles or whatever, like these things right here, which come with him, and then these shift off to the side, which I think is kind of neat. It's kind of weird, but it works. They all have those tiny little pegs the Revoltech figures are known for, which are more awkward to use than some, but they do fit in okay so that you can put things like rockets right here and stuff like that, so he can really just go hog wild. And that one actually stayed in there. That's funny. But yeah, he's got good knee joint movement. Like, it'll move past 90. And unlike the Wolverine figure, they didn't have to sacrifice like this big divot out of his... they had to do a big chunk out of his thigh here in order to get that kind of motion. Now, his foot articulation is kind of weak. It's mostly just, you know, in and out, up and down, and toe motion. There's not really any ankle motion on it. And you can see the exposed ball joint, and you can kind of hear it's kind of tight. And they really did cut a little bit out of the back in order to make it look, but it looks more natural, I feel like, on this figure than it did on Wolverine. Now, if you move him back a little bit, he actually... That's weird. You can see how he looks like he's kind of tilted. That is not movable that I can see. It might be. Oh, wow, that is stiff. Okay, so there's some articulation that I need to cover that I didn't know he had because mine was so stiff. This part right here actually kind of keeps him, which is actually just kind of on there like a belt almost. Keeps him from being able to move too far back with his leg. So if you go to try to move him back, let me get him in position here. Oh my god, my hand motion on this is so bad. You can see it's tricky to move him back, mostly because of this piece, right? So you're not going to get a lot of backwards motion on it, but you're going to get some decent forward motion. That's about as much as you're going to get, guys. La la la. No, sorry. But that's about as much as you're going to get there. Now, out to the side, he'll come out to about right here, which is probably plenty enough for most of his poses, if I'm being quite honest. Oh, no, that was still in there. But overall, he's got pretty average articulation for a figure of this level. I don't think it's anything stellar. They have done better jobs with the articulation, but it more than makes up for like ways of being able to attach various different things to the figure. Like you can attach like rockets and guns like here, pretty much everywhere. Very much like the Wolverine figure, they overcompensated in areas with the figure. So whereas Wolverine overcompensated by having just a lot of detailed musculature, this guy overcompensated by having a massive amount of armaments that can be attached at any one time in any given location, which is pretty indicative of the character. So that's fine. Another important thing to note here is right here, where these attach, these come off. So you can just pull that off like that, right? So that you can attach something else on there. But you can see the post like right there. And then they just attach right back on there, like, well, if I can get it on there. Come on, come on. You work with me. Okay. Don't make me a liar. And then these plates come off, which you can see on this side here, so that you can attach things on there, like I was explaining to you guys before. Now, with those on, it does make the hands a little hard to move. I'll admit. It makes them kind of very hard to move. But overall, I think he's a pretty good figure. The other articulation to notate is not just at the hip, but apparently the chest moves side to side like this. That's what was striking me as a little odd. And it'll move left and right too, a little bit. So you can not only bend him at the waist, you can bend him at the chest area, which is admittedly a little on the unusual side for most figures, but I like it. So I think it's a good addition. But let me move him back so you can see him completely in frame. Let me get this out of the way. So there he is, pretty much completely in frame. So you can see he actually stands really good on his own. He looks good just posed how he is. And that's just him just out of the box. I haven't even attached like any of this stuff. I haven't attached any of like this stuff. I haven't attached any of this ridiculousness that came with him, which is all the rockets and the extra miniguns and the extra pegs and the rock in the jet blasts and gun blasts, and he's got multiple hands that I haven't even tinkered with yet on screen. He can salute with like this hand here. That form of ridiculousness. I mean, there's a gobsmacking amount of accessories with him, far more than actually came with Wolverine, which is kind of fitting because this guy's whole big thing is like various different armaments for the job, right? So it makes him really interesting as far as a figure to kind of have and to kind of look around at. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to take a look at what I've got, and then I may set him up for a bit of a photo shoot. So I can get you guys some more shots. I kind of wish I had a different backdrop, because him on a gray backdrop is less impressive than if I had another backdrop for him. But I'm going to work with what I've got. I may take him to another location because I've got a couple other areas where I can take shots that'll probably show the figure off a little bit better, and I might intermingle those a little bit so that you guys get a better feel for just, you know, how good his colors look and things like that. That way you get a better overall view of the figure himself. So stick with me for a little bit here while I get some of those for you guys and put him in some poses and things like that, so you guys can kind of see what you're going to be spending your money on if you choose to get him, okay? Hang tight.